US President Joe Biden was in Saudi Arabia recently. His prime objective? To get the powerful OPEC cartel to increase its oil output so that global crude prices could be lowered. How did Saudi Arabia respond? It told Joe Biden that any decision to raise oil output will be taken by OPEC Plus collectively as an organization. Now, what is OPEC Plus? It's basically OPEC plus Russia. That should tell you how things are going to pan out for the Biden administration in August. Saudi Arabia and Russia are oil-rich partners. Saudi Arabia is the world's second largest oil producer. Russia stands at third position. Interestingly, Saudi Arabia has doubled its oil imports from Russia since the war in Ukraine began. According to data reviewed by Reuters, Saudi Arabia imported 647,000 tons of Russian oil in the second quarter, that is, from April to June. During the same period last year, the Gulf Kingdom had imported 320,000 tons of oil from Russia. In fact, Russian oil, which earlier used to go into Europe, is now finding its way into the Middle East. As of June, Russian fuel exports to the Middle East had reached 155,000 barrels per day. In July, the number climbed up to 220,000 barrels per day. Many would ask why Saudi Arabia, the biggest name in the crude oil world, is importing Russian oil. If Riyadh is to be believed, the hike in oil imports from Russia has a lot to do with power generation in the Gulf Kingdom. Saudi Arabia remains one of the countries that rely on oil for electricity generation. So, here's what's happening. Saudi Arabia is importing cheap Russian oil for domestic usage while exporting its own oil to the world at higher prices. That has allowed Saudi Arabia to free up more oil for exports at inflated prices. Europe has been avoiding direct purchases of Russian oil. According to Bloomberg, Europe's Russian oil imports slipped by 30% between February and June this year. During the same period, the Middle East's intake of Russian oil increased dramatically. Saudi Arabia has helped Russian oil find alternative markets in the Gulf. On its part, it is leading the purchase of Russian crude. Here's how it's happening. By purchasing Russian oil, Saudi Arabia is ensuring it frees up its own oil for exports without necessarily increasing output in a dramatic fashion. That means the supply remains the same, and so the prices do not climb down. It's a win-win situation for both Russia and Saudi Arabia. While Saudi Arabia earns handsome windfalls due to an apparent global oil supply crunch that has hiked prices, Russia gets to keep its economy running due to its oil finding new markets in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. Now, all eyes are on the OPEC Plus meeting scheduled for early August. Will OPEC Plus increase oil output? And will Saudi Arabia and Russia agree upon giving Joe Biden some respite?
Shalom, shalom, shalom. This is your brother Kadar, GMS Gulf Coast. Let's start by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah, Quadash. Double honors are given unto the apostle, elders of Great Millstone, men who have labored and suffered in this truth for over 30 plus years, making their lives and their bodies a living sacrifice. I also like to send a shalom to the hopeful elect, the 1/3 of the nation of Israel, speckled bird that's scattered throughout the four winds of planet Earth, north, south, east, and west, which consists of men, women, and children in that order. Also like to send a shalom to the various GMS camps, elders, and heads. And last but not least, I'd like to send a shalom to any of you Akim that are out on the highways and hedges, not named GMS, but walking one body, one spirit in Yahweh Shai, which is 100% truth. To you all, shalom. I did a video a couple of days back, America's in check, chess. And if you play chess, you'll know what that meant, that comment mean. Whenever you get someone in check, you'll call it check. Now they got to make a move or they king get brung down or captured. And that's about what's about to happen to Joe Biden. The Biden administration or the United States overall. They in check. All them damn sanctions and whatnot, all this shit done backfires. Lock you for the harsh language, but all this trash is backfired, you know, for the most part. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's other things that have to come about now, first and foremost. But we're the scriptures, and that's, I just brought this out for a day or so ago. But hey, this is the time we're in. The spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, Matthew 24. You know, this is Matthew 24:6, and it reads, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of war. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." You know, you're going to see nation against nation, as it's suggested in verse 7, you know, kingdom against kingdom. You know, let's see. You're going to see the love of many waxing cold, you know. We see the murder rate or the violence has a great uptick, you know, dealing with these shortages that are being perpetrated, are being pushed, you know, food, gas, all kind of things, you know what I'm talking about. Then they're hiking up prices and whatnot, you know. And for the most part, it's going under the radar because, you know, they don't want to spook the American public by and large. They want to keep you dumbed down with the reality shows, you know, Basketball Wives, you know, whatever. You know, I really don't follow television all that well. As a matter of fact, I don't have cable. I haven't had it in about the last decade or so. So if I'm seeing anything, I see commercials by way of YouTube or some of that fashion. But there's a plethora of different reality shows and all kind of, you know, distractions going on to keep the American public by and large dumbed down, you know, to the reality of what's really happening, you know. So I got videos of Biden. He turning around. Matter of fact, let me grab it real quick. I ain't gonna just say it. Let me grab it. Let me grab it real quick. Let's see if I got it. I may or may not have it. It's like it. I may or may not have it on this channel. So if I don't, I'm gonna have to. Let's see. And I don't think I do. No, I don't think it's on this channel. It's on the other channel. And I don't believe the camera works. You know. Anyway, there's a lot of things that are happening in the news. You know, women falling off balconies. This one woman, 23-year-old woman, I think she's in Houston. I don't know if she was pushed or she fell or, you know, how the story goes. You know, they said that she slipped off her balcony and on the 13th floor of her condo and fell to the 9th floor to a pool deck. You know, this one Jake, he was let out of jail here a few weeks back up, I think it was in Detroit. Anyway, he was locked up on a domestic violence charge, and I think he had $100,000 bond. He made bond, get out and murder his daddy, his girlfriend, stab his mama. I mean, man, you can't make this stuff up, man. You know, it goes without saying, you know. It's rough out here. But that goes into the 12 of verse 24 of Matthew. And because iniquities shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Are you seeing that? You know, this one Jake woman, she left home. She left her 20-month-old child at the house for about 5 or 6 days while she out partying, TikToking and whatnot. You dig? You know, it's like it. Real quick, this is a scripture in the book of Lamentations. You know, because these Jake women, you know, I seen this one TikTok video with this Jake woman. She was talking about how ugly her son was. You know, her infant son. And she was on TikTok. You know, you know the shit that you like. That slip. The bull, the BS that these women, so-called black women, you know, and it's not no ploy just to be poking and picking at the black woman. But when you go into these websites and whatnot, you know, like TikTok, World Star, man, you see these black women, man, they just being shameless, man. I mean, it's unreal. You know, you sitting up here talking about your infant son, as though you know, like there's no connection between the mother and the child. Anyway, this is Lamentations 4:3, and it reads, even jackals offered the beast, they nursed their young. But the daughter of my people has become cruel, like ostrich in the wilderness. And, you know, if you know the thing about an ostrich, you know, they bury they eggs in the sand and turn around and step on them and walk across them, and predators come and get them. You know, they're just very irresponsible when it comes to the taking care of their young. And the Most High Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is likening the daughters of Zion, in particular this so-called black woman, to a damn ostrich, because they display this type of behavior. I mean, this is yeah, this is unbecoming behavior. Very unbecoming behavior, you know. But didn't want to get off track here. I'd rather get off point, because this is actually going into, like, this is going into that this is going into how America has been put in check, and soon to be checkmated, you know. Because I put a video up, like I said, a few days back, you know, America is in check, this place is in check. And I quotation chess, they're in check. Biden's over in the Middle East over there, you know, talking with the fake Jewish people, you know, so-called Jewish people, you know, and over there claiming to be chastising the Saudis. He came back empty-handed. But Putin, check this out, Gravitas Live, Putin's big win against U.S., Iran, Russia strikes $40 billion energy contract. Now, Biden was in the same area here. He came back empty-handed. As a matter of fact, I think it's on my other channel. I'm afraid to try to switch over to that channel. But there was videos of Biden. He's making these speeches. He turns to his right or to his left and extend his hand to shake the hand of an invisible man. This is what the U.S. is dealing with. I mean, the wisdom of Esau is gone. It's gone. Anyway, let's play this real quick. I don't want to get off point.
Did you ever live or serve at Camp Lejeune and later develop cancer, Parkinson's, or another?
Putin's visit to Tehran was a success. Good evening and welcome to Gravitas. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay. Let's get started.
See the title? It says Putin scores a big win against America. All those damn sanctions and tariffs and all that other hoopla that they've been, you know, I believe she's gonna mention in this segment, war is just bigger than guns and smoke. It's also political, money, strategic moves. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what's the deal with America. Well, I do, but just for edification's sake, America just done played itself. Been playing with that same old playbook for the last 2 or 3 centuries, and it's caught up with them. It's just like someone with an illness that they have put off and hadn't went and attended to it, hadn't seen about it. Eventually, it catches up with you, and this is the situation or the predicament American, aka Babylon the Great, aka America, finds herself in. All that bullying and policing the planet and whatnot, spoiling other people, and they ain't spoiled you. They had to go along to get along because you toting the biggest gun. All that's changed, and we're seeing it firsthand.
Yes,
Now, and this is not to discredit the U.S. mainstream news platforms like CNN, Fox, MSNBC, CBS, Good Morning Joe, Hannity Show, whatever, It's not to say that they're not reporting this, but I haven't seen it, and that's not to say that they haven't. I'm just making that correction, But you have to look to these alternative news platforms in order to find out what's really going on, or rather get some more in-depth details of what's going on versus what that 2% of what they'll show you in a mainstream news platform, just like the ones I mentioned.
We've said this before about war. It is not just about winning territory. It is also about political victories, about serving a political purpose. Look at the war in Ukraine. The West wanted to isolate Putin, bring him down. Russia wanted to stop NATO's expansion and assert its claim on Ukraine. Neither has won, but Russia is certainly ahead. Putin has weaponized oil and gas supplies, so much so that the West is diluting its own sanctions. Putin has also defeated Biden in West Asia.
You heard her? She said that the West is diluting their own sanctions, trying to hold the purse strings, the money flow. But once you decide to drop the American petrodollar and start dealing amongst your neighbors closest to you, then those sanctions are nothing. Those sanctions mean nothing to Russia. Those sanctions mean nothing, to Russia, or to China, or to North Korea, or to Venezuela, because all of these people, all these countries I just named, have been in some way, some shape, form, or fashion been put in the economic sanctions by the U.S. But that is failing. That is falling face first. Like I say, those news platforms, those mainstream news platforms, I don't believe, not to say that that's 100% accurate, but they're not giving you the skinny about what's going on, what's actually going on. The U.S. is failing miserably because first you start a war about that money. And next is going to be bloodshed because you're going to have to force folks to deal with your money or if they're not willing to, if the sanctions is not swaying them or moving them or pushing them into doing business the way that you want to do it, then next comes them bullets flying. And NATO, aka America and Canada, they're gonna have to show their hand. Ukraine is about played out here. You're about wore out. So there's going to be a lot of changes that are going to come about here soon and very soon. There are going to be some forced implementations of Maxims and digital currency. Banks are failing worldwide because they all tied in under this global citizen deal. And as these political ploys that the U.S. is trying to pull on Russia and the friends that Russia is starting to make, as they fall flat on their face, the bully gonna have to pull out the bat and try to force someone to do. And like I said, that's gonna push in forced implementations of trying to keep up with everybody on the planet. Because one thing for sure, this old girl over here, United States, ain't going down without a fight. And the collapse of this place, they're gonna want to point that finger at somebody else. Reason why they fail. They're not gonna take responsibility for their failure. So this is another excuse that they can use to the American public, in which why things didn't pan out like they wanted them to. Anyway, enough babbling.
Important partnership. Saudi Arabia now backs Russia. Iran too backs Russia. Iran has signed a $40 billion oil deal with Russia. It may also sell drones to Russia. Putin's visit to Tehran was a success. Compare that to Biden's recent visit to the region. It was a flop. What does this mean for the region and for Russia's role in it? On Gravitas tonight, we'll decode Putin's power play in West Asia. West Asia has had a busy week. First, Joe Biden landed with a to-do list. He made a mess of it and returned empty-handed. Then Vladimir Putin went to Iran. He played his cards better than Biden, and he's returning with some big wins to Moscow. Putin secured a strategic partnership plus an energy deal. And that's something that Biden too came for, remember. He wanted an oil deal, but the Saudis refused. Putin, on the other hand, landed a $40 billion oil deal. And the big picture does not look good for Washington, D.C. Russia is far from being isolated, let alone being defeated. It is forging new partnerships.
Russia is far from being isolated. And that's what those political sanctions, economic sanctions, and all this other hoopla that the U.S. has been throwing on the screen, TV screens of MSNBC, Fox, and all the others. But they're not telling you, they're not going into the skinny about how that has all failed. Well, some of the, no, they're not. Not even their political rivals like Fox News, but, because they're all on the same ship. They know if Washington failed, United States and all as a whole fail. And if not anything, the right wing of the United States political party is a patriot of the United States. So they all fail. So they're not going to just come clean and let you know exactly what's happening. May drop a few jewels here and there, but hey, America's in check. Chess.
With Iran, Putin is creating a new anti-America axis. How will this help Russia? What impact will this have on West Asia and the world? And what role will Turkey play in this new game? We'll discuss all of this in the next few minutes. Starting with what Putin got from his visit to Iran. He made some significant breakthroughs. Let's tell you about the two big announcements that were made. Number one, Iran has backed Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Unlike China, Iran is not being cautious. It is not mincing its words. It has offered its full support to Putin.
Come right on out. They ain't mixing no words. They ain't being ambiguous. You know what I'm talking about? They ain't being unclear about what they're saying. They backed the Russians on their overthrow of Ukraine. Don't care how you take it. It is what it is. And that's very important because guess what? These kings of these other nations and whatnot, man, they done had their fear with the U.S. The Most High is putting in their spirit and to throw their middle finger up at this place. And guess what? America ain't got too much more. She ain't gonna take too much more of that disrespect before she lash out.
Let me tell you what Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei told Putin, and I'm quoting, "War is a violent and difficult issue, and the Islamic Republic is in no way happy that civilians get caught up in it. But concerning Ukraine, had you not taken the initiative, the other side would have taken the initiative and caused the war." The other side here being the NATO.
See that? See, these people are not stupid. These kings of these other nations are not stupid. Iran backs Russia's invasion into Ukraine. Had you not taken the initiative, the other side would have taken the initiative and caused the war. And NATO is just a code word for America and Canada, which going to have to get their feet dirty here soon, very soon.
One simple but brilliant trick to cool your home in 90 seconds. Tired of hot and...
So what Iran is saying is this: if Russia had not started the war, the NATO would have. And this is not surprising. Both Iran and Russia consider the West as their enemy. Both face tough Western sanctions. And in geopolitics, common enemies make great friends. The West has isolated both Iran and Russia. So Iran and Russia are now natural allies. Iran is supporting Russia's war on Ukraine. It has also struck a major oil deal with Russia, a deal worth $40 billion. It was signed during Putin's visit. What does the deal entail? Russia will help Iran set up more oil fields and gas projects. And this is significant given their history. Remember, Russia once colonized parts of northern Iran. Today, they've become strategic partners with an oil deal and possibly an arms deal too. The US says Russia wants to buy Iranian drones. The leaders did not mention it yesterday, but reports say Russia is seriously pursuing this deal, the drone deal with Iran. There is talk of a treaty on strategic cooperation. Tehran and Moscow want to further their relationship on three levels: regional affairs, security, and economics. Moving away from the use of the dollar is a priority for both sides.
And that's the point. Moving away from the dollar is a priority, because that's the only way those sanctions are going to have any effect on them. When you found another way to monetize and to support your people, your nation, and get them fed and keep jobs and just keep things rolling without, outside interference of the U.S. currency, that's a very dangerous act, and that's going to ultimately make that's an act of war. But okay, enough of that. Slakia.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend is an ancient proverb which suggests that two parties can or should work together against a common enemy.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And an ancient proverb would suggest that two parties can or should work together against a common enemy. And who do you think the common enemy is in this debacle? The West. It don't take a rocket science to figure out who the enemy is. Let's see, Isaiah 33, I believe it is, yeah. And this is Isaiah 33:1, and it reads, "Woe to thee that spoilest, and they was not spoiled, and dealt treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled. And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. O Lord, be gracious unto us. We have waited for thee, but thou their arm every morning, our salvation also in the time of trouble." It says, "At the noise of the tumult, the people fled. At the lifting up of thyself, the nations were scattered. And your spoil shall be gathered like the gathering of the caterpillar, as the running to and fro of locusts shall he run upon them." And the Lord getting ready to gather up his 1/3, the elected nation of Israel. Yeah, he's getting ready to gather them up. Let's go back to Isaiah real quick. And I'll go to Isaiah 11:11. It reads, "And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Patmos, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the isles of the sea. And he shall set up an insignia and a sign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. You know, these things about to come into play. The Lord is, is already sent his spiritual bullhorns out on the highways and hedges. You know, and to warn Israel of their transgressions, to get on board, to repent. You know, this is Isaiah 58:1, and it reads, "Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and shew my people their transgression, and the house of Israel, it's like in the house of Jacob, their sin." So, everything is being set up. You're being told to come back into this. You're being warned. What is this? Ezekiel, let me see, is it 9? You're being warned. To get on board. You're being warned to get on board. That's not the one I'm looking for. Is it Ezekiel? Which one it is? Is it Ezekiel 5? Yeah, you're being warned to get back on board, Now, this is Ezekiel 5, and is this one I'm looking for? This might not be it. Well, I'm going to read this anyway. This is Ezekiel 5:4, and it reads, "Take them again and cast them into the midst of the fire, and burn them in the fire. For therefore shall a fire come forth into all the house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh power. This is Jerusalem. I have set it in the midst of the nation and countries that are round about her." So that's going into him gathering up his remnant out of all the nations, out of the different nations and islands throughout the whole four corners of planet Earth, north, south, east, and west. Because we're seeing things ramp up between these nations, and that's all the Lord's doing, And it reads, "This is the Lord." Okay, it says, "And she had changed my judgments into wickedness more than the nations, and my statutes more than the countries that are round about her. For they have refused my judgments and my statutes; they have not walked in them." So Isaiah 58:1 is prevalent right now. You have to listen and come out of this and repent. Because the Lord is swaying these kings, like you. Because the Lord is controlling, or rather putting the visions, putting the spirit on these kings like Putin and Ayatollah, Saudi prince and their governments, Turkey, China, North Korea, He putting the spirit on them, to buck up. So, as we see these things wind down, as the Lord is maneuvering and manipulating his left hand, so is he gathering up all of those on his right hand. This is Proverbs 21:1, and it reads, it says, "The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord Yahweh. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will." Verse 2, it says, "Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord Yahweh pondereth the heart." To do justice and judgment is more acceptable to the Lord Yahweh than sacrifice. You know, it's high time that you come out of your way of thinking and thinking that, I believe in my heart that this is that and that is this. If it don't say thus said the scriptures, I'm talking about thus said these holy scriptures, thus said these commandments, thus says the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, you better drop that like a hot plate and get with this right knowledge. But that was basically it. That that was basically it. But anyway, I just wanted to bring out a quick little tab on that. A little touch. Just touch bases on the video I did prior. That this place is in check. Chess is in check. And if you play chess, you know what I'm saying. You're in check. Your king about to be overthrown. America is seeing its last days. That's point blank period. Like I said, the nations have had their fill with this place, and that's the Lord of Yahweh Shem Yahushua putting it in their spirit to do so. Lord, when it was edifying, I'm going to give all praise and honor and glory to the Most High Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Double honors to the apostle elders of Great Millstone. Shalom.